Hello and welcome back to another Reaconteur video, and in today's video I will be showing you how to make the best build specifically for you. Before we get into it, make sure to subscribe, since only about 20% of the people watching this video are actually subscribed. And also, before we get into it, I have something to tell you about. This is Gear Up Booster. Last time I told you guys about how it improved your connection to make your internet stable and help you perform better in games like Deepwoken. But did you know that it also works on mobile? Using Gear Up Booster's mobile app, you can boost your connection in games like Roblox and Clash Royale. Using Gear Up Booster makes it way easier to play Roblox on my phone because it makes the connection way smoother, which Roblox mobile servers usually struggle with. So download Gear Up Booster on PC and on mobile using the link in the description and comment section down below. Now back to the video. The reason why I'm making this video is because of a few reasons. First of all, lots of people will copy their favorite YouTuber's build and use it for the wrong purpose, as if NoGo's build is going to work for your support hit and run playstyle, when you really should be using Linkstrider. I also want to help spread diversity through the Deepwoken community, because maybe we can see more builds in game instead of the same copy and paste builds over and over again. When making a build that suits you, you need to understand your playstyle and abilities. There's 4 types of main builds that you can make within Deepwoken: support builds, frontline ganking builds, chime of conflict or 1v1 builds, and PvE builds. There are also subcategories that go into this, such as the speed and playstyle and movement, but we'll be covering that later. First of all, you need to choose a practical build for your purposes. If you don't have friends, don't make a support build. If you don't gank, don't make a frontline ganking build. And if you don't like Chime of Conflict structured formula, then don't make a Chime of Conflict build, because you're not going to be playing it. Let's go over what each of these 3 types of builds specializes in. Support builds are anything that can buff your teammates in ganks and improve long-term endurance for your team. This means charisma builds and fortitude builds with talents like Valve Mastery and Reinforce, as well as Linkstrider and commonly Arc Warder for the increased tankiness. Support builds are meant to help your teammates first and foremost, but they also need survivability because if you die, you can't help your teammates. Next are frontline gank builds, which are focused on crowd control and endurance. This means attunements like Flame and Gale, which can run and heal a lot, are good, as well as Shadow, which allows you to drain your opponent's ether, making them less effective in a fight and less capable of chasing you. Since your build is likely to be taking multiple people on in a single encounter, you need as much survivability as possible with a frontline ganking build. You also need good crowd control abilities. Dawnwalker provides both with the talent protagonist syndrome and the multiple AoE monsters that allow you to damage multiple people at once. Along with that, these builds are usually supposed to be made to run, because lots of the time you'll end up having to run back to your support members to heal you or get a Linkstrider buff or something. Tertiary, Chime of Conflict builds aren't about endurance. Usually, at least. They're generally just about doing the highest damaging combos or the longest combo strings possible. While they are good in 1v1 scenarios, a Chime of Conflict designated build struggles in ganks because it usually doesn't have all the tools needed to last long in gank scenarios or take fights with more than one person at a time. This means damage and health are the only things that really matter, as well as your combo potential. These are the most important things in a Chime of Conflict builds. This is why Silent Heart and Dawnwalker are 2 popular oaths, because they allow you to combo well and they can let you deal a lot of damage to your singular opponent at a time. And finally, there are PvE builds, which are for one of 2 people: traders looking for legendary weapons farming hell mode bosses or the new Diluvian mechanism, and people who don't like PvP. If you're making a PvE build and want to have fun, then just play the game and choose the stats that you think sound cool or that you like. Just have fun with it. If you're making a PvE build and want to grind, look up a YouTube tutorial and find an armor kit for sale that'll give you the stat buffs you need, because if you're looking to grind, you're clearly not looking to have fun and just want to one-shot all the monsters. You either want to have fun or you want to make profit. Just choose the build depending on what you want. After deciding what type of playstyle best suits you, you need to decide what speed you can operate at. If you're a slow player, Silent Heart might be for you, because you're slow. If you can move fast and hit a lot of quick combos, Gale Breath and Dawnwalker are a better fit for you. Fast players are better off with medium and light weapons, so fists, swords, and daggers will probably work well for you. Slower players are definitely better off with heavy weapons and guns, because they allow you to operate slower and get more damage per combo or hit. Crypt Blades builds specifically are a good pick for slower players. Silent Heart is also good because you have a lot less to manage and do, since you don't need to worry about mantras, meaning you can focus on spamming rifle crits and uppercuts. You should also probably decide on a playstyle. If you like slower weapons, it's not the most beneficial for you to spam mantras and get punished because your weapons are too slow to follow up. Heavy weapons are punished playstyles. Dodge, block, parry, and punish your opponent when he makes a mistake or misses. Crypt Blade builds especially are good at this, with mantras like Shadebringer and Shadowgun. Faster playstyles can punish, but do it worse and mainly focus on combos and mix-ups to get into your opponent. We can also categorize attunements into categories depending on what they're best for. Gale Breath, Flame Charm, and Thundercall, for example, are good attunements which have aggressive mantras, which benefit faster playstyles and are good if you like to play combos. Shadow is honestly the only good attunement for just punishment playstyles, as its mantras are pretty slow, highly damaging, telegraphed, and they punish well because of the Ether Drain. Iron Sing and Frost Draw are actually highly versatile and can be used for both depending on the mantras you get, but I do think they're generally better for a faster playstyle. You could use them for a slower one though. Let's now take some time to categorize everything in the game based on the playstyles they benefit most, including bells. So let's start with the bells. Reaper, Smite, Windup, and Crazy Slots are good bells for people making frontline gank builds. They all offer either survivability or more damage potential, making them good picks for this. Resurrection, Preservation, Kamui, Flying Rajan, Sacred Field, and Smokescreen are good support bells to use as they provide buffs to your teammates or debuffs to your enemies. They can also alternatively give you places to hide and heal like Kamui and Flying Rajan. Payback, Shardbow, Run It Back, and Gravity Field are actually good for both frontline ganking builds and Chime of Conflict builds, as they can be used for either scenario to harm your enemies regardless if it's a 1v1 or a gank. Jar of Souls and Portals really aren't good for anything, so I wouldn't recommend using them ever. The Yoru Dropkick or whatever it's called can be used situationally to start up combos, but it's really not that good. Also, Gravity Field is good when used in a frontline gank build. However, if you're a bit dumb, then it might not be good for you because you're probably going to be harming your teammates more than the enemies. Next is weapons. The Crypt Blade, rifles, guns, all heavy weapons, and Rifle Spear are good punish playstyle weapons, as they can all be used to punish your opponent for making mistakes with high damage or punishing your opponent for being overly aggressive, which is what specifically guns and rifles are good for, which is why Silent Heart Rifle is super popular. The Curved Blade of Winds, any fist style, daggers, medium weapons, and the Light's Final Toll are all great for a more aggressive, faster playstyle that promotes combos and mix-ups to get damage on your opponents. For attunements, you can absolutely use any attunement for a punish-based or aggressive playstyle. Every attunement has mantras that can support both playstyles because the game is kinda well-balanced. However, some attunements have better mantras that support one of these playstyles more than the other. Gale Breath, Thundercall, and Flame Charm are good aggressive playstyle attunements. However, Flame Charm can punish well with mantras like Burning Servants and Fireblade, and Gale can punish well with Champion's Whirl Throw and Astral Wind. Overall, most of the mantras provide ways to combo and mix up your opponents, making that the better playstyle generally. Shadow is definitely the best attunement for a defensive punishing playstyle, especially with Crypt Blade, with mantras like Shadebringer and Eclipse Kick which do heavy damage but are a bit slow or weird to parry. However, mantras like Shadow Blade and Shadow Gun mean approaching and playing offensively isn't impossible. Also, the reason why Shadow specifically is super good is because of the Ether stealing. If your opponent has no Ether, it's going to be easy to punish him because he can't follow up with as many mantras. Iron Sing and Frost Draw are honestly equally suited for both playstyles. I think Frost Draw, however, has always been underutilized in the meta with most people not using it despite how strong it actually is. They both do have a lot of mantras that are good for each playstyle though. Just think of Frozen Pin Cushions, Ice Daggers, and then you also have Ice Skate, which is good for a hit and run playstyle, which can be used for a support build, a frontline gank build. And then you also have like Iron Sing, which is just does a lot of damage. And now finally we have Oaths. First of all, never use Oathless. There's never a point in getting it unless you're lazy and don't want to get Dawnwalker. Your best possible build should never have Oathless in it because it is a direct downgrade to Dawnwalker in almost every way possible. Anyway, Dawnwalker, Vision Shaper, Blind Seer, Star Kindred, and Contractor are all good for frontline ganking builds. They all provide ways to isolate enemies, damage multiple enemies with large AoE moves, or provide yourself with more survivability. Link Strider, Arc Warder, and Fade Trimmer are all good for support builds. Link Strider is directly a support oath made for helping your allies in ganks, providing mobility, and healing. Arc Warder gives you more survivability, making you more able to help your teammates, and Fade Trimmer means nobody on your team is going to be going into battle without a fresh cut. Many of the ganking paths repeat for Chime builds, but if you're making a Chime of Conflict build, Silent Heart, Vision Shaper, Dawnwalker, Blind Seer, and Contractor are highly viable. I would say Silent Heart is honestly the best, because when you can isolate people like in the Chime of Conflict, it means that you're at a complete advantage because they can't use mantras, you don't have mantras, but you're spamming Rifle Crit, Uppercut, and Ankle Cutter. I would generally never recommend actually using Fade Trimmer, Jet Striker, and obviously not Attunementless or Oathless, since Dawnwalker is a direct upgrade to it. Jet Striker can be used because it does provide you with more survivability, but if you have a good support team, you don't really need it, and you're kind of losing out on the offensive ability that things like Dawnwalker and Star Kindred could provide you with. Also, about attunement lists, just don't use it. Attunement list hasn't been in the meta since Return to the Dark Ages with meta, and that talent has been gutted. There's no point in ever using attunement lists unless you're trolling and you just want to strong left people off of the depths void, but there's no point in really using attunement lists. Overall, I hope this video could help you make a new build that benefits you, and I didn't want to go over talents because that's a lot of yapping and I don't feel like doing it on Monday at 7 a.m. when I'm recording this. If you enjoyed, make sure to subscribe and follow me on Twitch and join my Discord. I'll be streaming on Twitch like right after this probably, or maybe, I don't know, like an hour or two after. But yeah, buy a YouTube membership to support me, and I love you all. I hope you all have an amazing day, and goodbye.